officially graduated to Man Rants in Car. So enjoy. Had an interesting thought that kind of briefly discussed with a friend who added to the thought, and I don't know, it's just been on my mind a lot. Just a quick little sort of interesting thing to think about. So I've been reading Technological Society, about a quarter or so of the way through, maybe third, and really, it's just an eye-opening, really amazing read. Just 430 pages mulling over the idea of efficiency in the sort of anti-spiritual, anti-cultural, entropic nature of a milieu. Is that how you pronounce it? Milieu of efficiency, where a society that constructs itself in a way where it kind of forces everyone in it to kneel to technique, is what Jacques Ellul, the author, calls it. It's not specifically technology that is evil or sort of all-encompassing and consuming society. It's technique. It's the striving for efficiency and creating more and more efficient systems. And the very nature, this is why, as I've just for the last couple years that I've really been in this kind of frame of mind of the falsehood of the left and right, and sort of the fakeness of ideology, and the fakeness of capitalism, and the fake of like there's this falsehood that everything's built on, and its sort of origin point is the striving for efficiency. And it made me think, it's funny too, because Jacques Ellul was a Marxist in his younger years, and I haven't read all of his stuff. I only read Christianity and Anarchy, or Anarchy and Christianity, and Technological Society, and I've listened to some videos on his works and his philosophy from Hermetics and Chad Haig. And what I've kind of gathered is that, and I relate to Jacques Ellul a lot on this point, a lot actually, because I don't really come across people who went from communist to reactionary, and that's where I see myself at, I guess. See, this is the thing. I don't like calling myself reactionary. I don't like calling myself traditionalist. These are not like, this is the issue with linguistification, is when you identify yourself with a thing, that it's like you're already operating within ideology. You're already like operating within something that's not you, right? Like I'm not interested in furthering some cause, right? That's the idea. Is when you define yourself by an ideology, you are saying, I am for this cause. I saw this funny this is going to be a rambly video, but there's a point to it. There's this it wasn't a TikTok, I don't know. I saw like some kind of TikTok clip or whatever on Twitter, and it was this chick at like an English gal at a libertarian get-together, sort of meetup at a coffee shop or restaurant, and she was like doing a little montage of asking people what their political identifier is. And you had people like libertarian, conservative, blah, 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 neoliberal. One of them said neoliberal, but there was this guy, he said, I just want the trains to run on time. And I'm like, oh, that's a cheeky way of saying he's a fascist. And that's kind of, it's like, that's what I feel like, is like, it's not, I'm not trying to really identify myself, and I think that identifying yourself with something instantly pins you on something you're not, right? Because the nature of reality is really warfare, is spiritual warfare. And trying to detach yourself and kind of like derive, right? Go into like derivative of spiritual warfare. You're not really hitting on the ultimate issue, right? And that spirituality is not pinned to some destiny in the real world. It's actually there's a destiny away from the real world, which is why worldly things are ultimately evil. But what was interesting about Jacques Ellul, he was, a Christian his entire life. I think he went from Catholic to Protestant, because he said he was a Protestant in Anarchy and Christianity, but early on he was a Catholic layman. So I don't know. He was apparently very active, and he was French, but he came from this same sort of starting off point that I did, which was I was a communist, teenager, obviously, because different, right? This guy was a communist revolutionary, right? I was just a fucking privileged, white kid who was a communist. Not that I was woke. I was never woke in my entire life. I was just a commie. And I think from when you start off as a commie, it's like Jordan Peterson too. You had the same thing. It kind of there's this part of you that you identify with that's like very in dialogue with the nature of oppression against the poor and the truly oppressed and the people within the armpits of society who are just almost universally hated. And I'm not in like some bleeding heart, oh, those poor people. It's like a natural, like when you're a real commie, you almost love those people. That's why when you really associate with actual communists and like union type people, they're very obviously in personality types, but ultimately they're very much like, they're raw and they're salt of the earth. And obviously those people existed in a much more endearing manner before the information age and before this age. Hopefully you guys can hear me. And what I realize is I have compassion. That's why I'm kind of yelling, is I'm trying to like, hopefully if it's loud for you guys, you can hear me. I have some like compassion I can't kill for this this type of person that is I'm on a road trip right now to county before country. I have this compassion for like not only just the gentle laborer, but just like people who, their starting off point, their entire reality is within the milieu of reliance on the system, and it doesn't get better for them. It actually, the more society progresses, and this is why I think socialists are like ultimately like socialists of like the modern brand. They're actually transhumanists, and we'll get to that. People who rely on the system, Mexican Eagle, get out of the way, baby. They have to. They rely more and more on the fruits of globalism, on the fruits of the most efficient systems. So when I mean efficiency, right? If you're not familiar with this, if you're just like, what do you mean by efficiency? That can mean a million things. Yes, exactly. Right? Efficiency in technique, in the way that Jacques Ellul uses it, and coincidentally the same way that I've been using it I haven't been using the word technique, but I've been using efficiency ever since I started writing on this point of diminishing returns. The law of diminishing returns is those efficient systems and technical processes that bring about the furtherance of what I've been calling consumativity, the incestuous melding of consumption, of consumerism and productivity, the furtherance of efficiency to ensure those two things are going up in a straight line, makes people who are in the system reliant upon it more and more, right? So the nature, for instance, of being, so if you're let's call it, if you're telos, right, the ultimate aim and thing and means, your means to an ends and your ends are ultimately just the myth of progress, right? You operate purely, I'm about to get into a bunch of rants, so hopefully I can finish this. You operate within a certain mindset that is inseparable from the myth of progress, and you have to produce, you have to consume, you have to produce. But what happens when the system is totally reliant on you becoming more and more specialized and becoming more and more inseparable from the system, so that you can produce and what if in this credentialized society you have to get more and more indebted? You have to become basically inseparable from the system, right? There's no way, there's no facet within the society, there's no it's actually stigmatized to be separate from the system. You know, and that means, that comes in many different fashions. Nowadays, in order to be separate from the system, you're just a white nationalist. You're a schizo. So, on that point, the only way to be separate from the system means to be to abandon the technical process, because that means you can, and this is what my friend kind of expanded upon, was we used to be able to get organic food just naturally, it was default, and now in order to get organic food you have to be ascended. It's a Gnostic process, and you have to have way more money in order to get the same thing that you had centuries ago, right? So in order to become, in order to live a life that is separated from the system that brings you no ends and makes you more and more frustratingly reliant on it, right? Because there's no theosis when you have to engage. There's no spiritual experience when having to be ever so melded to the economic. In order to become spiritual, you have to be separate from technique and efficiency. Right? In order to live a way that is simpatico with the spiritual lifestyle, it means to not be so focused on this idolization of progress and yearning for more and more consuming, and yearning for more and more status, in a system that is literally anti-theological. It's anti-theosis. It's anti-community. It's anti-culture. It's anti-history. It's anti-story. It's anti-journey. So it's actually funny because in order to... The highest status in society, it's funny because it's like a horseshoe. The highest status in society, the only way to become unreliant and become whole once more, right? To be separate from the myth of progress and the technical process, you literally either have to be so rich that you don't rely on the supply chain and you have every little bit of means to be self-secure and self-sufficient. So ironically, becoming rich means becoming separate from status and from this milieu, the same milieu that the upper middle class feels the need to ascend, make more and more money, get more and more debt, and never feel whole. They try so and so hard to move up, and yet they never actually do achieve that sense of separation because it takes such an amount of capital that you would either have to have such an immense amount of skill and separation from your yearning for status and a nice job title and a nice car and blah, 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 blah. It would mean such a separation that you either look like, Christopher McCandless or Ted Kaczynski or, what was it, John Zerzan? Chad Haig, even in a way, right? There's a certain way, there's actually a certain status in the myth of progress, which is truly the epicenter of everyone's how they operate in society. Everything is about progress in your own life and in the outside. It's technological and this transhumanist progress to achieve this euphoria and separation from death and dysphoria and struggle, like basically materialist Buddhism. It's really weird. They want to achieve Zen, Buddhist utter separation from material by becoming the most materialist possible. That is transhumanists, which ultimately most people are transhumanists. Because why would you want nicer and nicer cars? Why would you want more and more efficient phones and stupid fucking technology and fucking Amazon Alexa? Because you want to make your life efficient. Why? So you can enjoy pleasures more. That's it. You want more pleasure. Oh, cool. Wow. You got this job in debt and you have become so inseparable from it, and it's all for what? So you can be happy? No, pleasure. What the fuck is happiness? If all it is desire to you. That's not, what the fuck is happiness? If that's happiness, then happiness is terrible. But the other side, right? The other side of the horseshoe, the other end point, is to literally become Ted Kaczynski, minus the bombs, right? It's to become a mountain man, to become Zarathustra. So in that way, I'm going way too slow. In that way, this system is achievable, but like I said, where the ability to separate yourself is achievable, but it means becoming either immediately separated from the system like a hobo, or gradually separating yourself from the system in a lying down like fashion of the Chinese people, the Chinese youth who are saying, fuck becoming a doctor and fuck living this horribly materialistic shithole life that my parents have. I'm just gonna go work at the gas station. Yeah. So, to get back to the whole the thing when I was talking about communism and feeling like there's almost some inseparable feeling like I care about the gentle labor, blah blah blah. I'm so compassionate. No, I'm not saying that about me or other commies, which I'm not a communist, but the point that Marx made about capital becoming more and more centralized in this incestuous way among the capitalist class, which exists, the financialist class. This is a thing, okay? Which, fucking Imperium Press guy called woke capital, which, no. What happens is this society becomes over-focused so much on efficiency. The gentle labor, right? I use that in jest. Is so more and more reliant on the technique, whether it be financial or economic, whether it be technological, inconvenience related. You need a car or you need public transportation, and your life revolves around time and getting things done on time, and being able to be close to a Walmart and having to have reliance on the city or some well or septic system for your basic amenities, and being reliant on this system that, even though it's supposed to be efficient, all it does is create more problems for itself. And we're starting to see that with the line of efficiency starting to work against itself as being efficient, because what is efficiency supposed to do? It's supposed to be reliable, but it's not. It's unreliable. It becomes more and more unreliable over time. So the gentle laborer, the modern peasant class, which is different from the peasant class of the feudal period, who had their own basically Georgist society, distributive society, that was way more copacetic than the current peasant society, which is the complete opposite. It's ostracized and atomized and has no culture and only knows pleasure seeking and relies solely on technique in the government. That class gets screwed over by technology. They get screwed over by technique. They get screwed over by efficiency. And so the trend of history that is so focused on progress will actually continue to screw over the laborer, the tradesman, the lower class and the lower middle class, up into maybe the middle class. And the financial class will be ever more safeguarded by the fact that they don't need technique. Not to say that they have really a skill-related leg up, but what I'm saying is, under their helm of power, and as long as this financial system lasts, which I would say decades, the poor are not only going to get poorer and more indebted, but they're going, and this specifically goes for other first world countries like Europe and Australia and New Zealand and every other country except the USA. America's going to make it out better than anybody else. Not that they're going to make it out good, but America has a lot longer to go than Europe does. But that's besides the point. To kind of bring this thought all together, in my opinion, as technology progresses, as the myth of progress continues on, even though the numbers don't reflect progress itself as the milieu will further fuck over the laborers and the people indebted, especially the class of people who go to college and have debt and can't get a job, and like increasingly more so don't know how to function in the real world. In my opinion, I don't know how this doesn't look like some kind of inverted feudal system where the poor literally become reliant on the financial system in a way that they can't break out of. They can't use it to their advantage. They can't find some kind of separation from society. They actually, if they want to take the conventional route, which I see so many smart enough people taking, which is fucking college and not working, college and not working a job, and not paying rent and not developing credit and all this stuff. Those people are going to be a slave class because they don't have anyone. But rather than it being like a spiritually beautiful, simpatico commons type system where the feudal serfs all kind of work together in the same villages and work for the Lord and blah blah blah, and there's no real ownership of land. They all just kind of work together. It's like a nice big family, blah blah blah. Not to say that was a constant throughout medieval history. What I'm saying is it's better than what is going to happen. We're literally moving towards techno-slavery, and to be in favor of technological advancements, in favor of technical processes, essentially we will be, you are in favor of the problem itself, which is why the NRX and like the sort of technological singularity type people believe in this like really illogical fantasy that somehow technology at some point is going to remove us from techno-slavery itself. And I just don't know how they can't see the direct correlation between technology and the myth of progress, and how inseparable they are, and how it will only make it worse for everybody. And there's no matter of turning it based and right-wing. There's no matter of that's going to make it better. Anyway, yeah. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed this edition of Man Rants and Car. Yeah, get some food for thought. Chew on that. Call me an idiot in the comments. Call me a hypocrite. I don't care. But I know I'm onto something. And if I was going to give advice to anybody, now this isn't like financial advice. This isn't like even that particularly smart. But I would say buy land. Like, I just can't stress it more. Like, the more you don't rely on the system itself, the better off you are. And if you are in a good spot like Texas or Tennessee or Florida, where you can pretty much feasibly work a job that's going to pay you decent money to be able to pay a mortgage for a long time while you develop other skills and develop means of not relying on the system, I think that's the best bet. That's what I'm going to do. Well, that's what I want to do. Once again, I've talked about it. Market sucks right now, but I'm close to getting a certain house, but I don't know. There's some issues with it. Who knows if it turns out okay? We'll see what happens. But that's it. God bless everybody. Yeah.